Now that we've taken a little break from working on our city and developed out this small farming town on the eastern edge of the map, it's time to get back into the center and finish out some of the underdeveloped areas to really cement the bounds of our downtown. We're going to be looking at this corner here. My idea is to have some mixed zones with commercial and a few warehouses close to the highway. Then we will bring in more residential as we get farther away. I would also like to take a look at all of our existing roads, seeing if there are any areas where we can make improvements to the traffic flow, as well as introducing some bike infrastructure in the more dense areas of our city. So without further ado, let's get started. What I would like to do for this road layout here is use the existing roads that we already have set down and sort of expand them out, but we're going to have to take them at an angle here to bring them up towards the mountain and then sort of break them off at a certain point. So what I'm going to do is grab my 4-lane divided road and I need to turn off this snapping so I can get right in the middle of it. And I'm going to extend it out ever so slightly and then make another point that's going straight up just like this. Then I'm going to use my curved road tool to connect them both. And right here where it becomes completely straight, I'd like to bring this out 90 degrees in either direction and get this connected here. So I'm gonna take off just a little bit of this section here and then just go ahead and get this all connected with the curved road tool again. So now you can see we can make some blocks here in this section following this grid and over here as well, and then we can extend a lot of these roads up either to meet this road directly or to curve over and meet this road. Now that we've got a rough road layout of how we want this to go, I kind of want to go through some of my thought process on how I want to lay these buildings out. So generally in here, closer to the highway, I'm going to want to add more commercial and maybe just a couple warehouse buildings or maybe some service buildings. I don't really want to push that many houses too close to the highway. I know I do have some residential, like some apartments, and I have some houses that are right next to the highway here. And so I probably will mix in some houses as well, but I kind of want to taper it off a little bit to have some commercial zones, especially near these main arterials, and then have maybe some houses snuck in these smaller areas or some apartment complexes. And then as we get farther out, I want it to look more and more suburban. So like right here in the corner, I added sort of what looks like one of those newer suburban developments that have curvy roads and cul-de-sacs and stuff like that. And I'm gonna try to put in some assets that look like newer builds on houses. And then in some of these other neighborhoods, maybe they're a little bit older. So I added some more straight roads, kind of what you would see from an older neighborhood. And then I want to taper it off here. So I'm going to have some houses over here, but I don't want it to be super dense. I want this area to be sort of still a little bit more natural, but just with a few houses scattered in here in this corner. I still want to have some sort of opening here. We've got this transformer station here, which I might end up moving. This was kind of a temporary place for the transformer station whenever I initially placed it down. I would like to get an extra highway connection somewhere in this area so we're not funneling all of the traffic into this intersection here and then these two bridges here. I want another way that they can get into the city here so we're not causing too much traffic whenever people start moving into these houses. As I think about this more, I think what I actually would like to do is center a lot of the commercial stuff on this block here at this intersection. Maybe have like a gas station and a couple other commercial buildings here at this corner. I'll probably still add some warehouse and commercial along the highway here because I don't really want to put any houses right up next to this highway here. Kind of going along with the theme here of how we have some commercial and some warehouse and a couple of actual factories here in this area here and in this area here. I think I want to extend that out just a little bit, but then maybe taper it off, leave some empty space in this area, and then center my commercial along this street here, but really keep the commercial kind of sparse. I do want this area to be pretty suburban, pretty residential along this whole entire area, sort of similar to Oak Hills, but with a little bit more commercial just to make it blend with this city here a little bit more. So let's see what we can do about that. I'm gonna go and look for a gas station. I'll just search up for gas and do this. I want to have a pretty big gas station, so I'm gonna go lot depth 5 and see what we can find here. So something like this could work. Maybe perhaps right here. And then I really like using either the southwest or the northeast commercial buildings. They do just really nail that look of the theme that we're going for here. So let me just see what I can squeeze in here that looks natural. Maybe something like this on this angle here. I kind of like this building here because it reminds me of a fast food place with a drive-through going through it. And so I think that's something that's really nice to cozy up right next to our gas station here. Have a gas station and a fast food place and then a mechanic shop across the street. Maybe we'll have a couple other businesses here in this block. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and start filling out some of these residential buildings and I'll come back here in a moment. Now that all of our citizens are moving into this neighborhood, I just wanted to take a little bit of a look just to make sure that everything is looking good. Now, it's a little bit rough around the edges at the moment. I am going to add a little bit more detail as I go along, but right now I'm just trying to get everything placed down and just make sure that the placement looks natural and looks nice. So I just want to take a look at it from, a farther perspective or something like that, and just see how it looks, with the backdrop of the mountains and the landscape and whatnot. And it is looking quite nice over there. I would like to go through and add, some more surfaces to some of these areas, and some more surfaces to the grass as well, just to give it a little bit more variety. But I think it's looking pretty nice already, just with the trees and with the houses being placed down. It's looking nice and full and complete. So at the moment, we still have quite a bit of room to expand out in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some more residential probably placed in this area here, and some more residential placed in this area here. And then we'll just have these commercial and residential mixed areas and the warehouse areas to continue on with later. For this section here, I think I'm going to switch over to the UK asset pack. I think we're going to get some bigger lots and some more older, nicer looking homes from the UK pack. So I'm going to search for UK large, and we're going to use these assets here, and I'm going to spread them out just a tiny bit and see if I can get a nice look going for this area. One thing that I would like to implement right away is some high density, low rent housing somewhere here. We've already got the apartment complexes here, and we've got the high school here. So I think some high density apartment complexes will fit in nicely here. And we are running into a lack of labor in a lot of these businesses here. And I'd like to get all of these cleared up. And some of these people also don't have enough customers. So we definitely need to get some more population into the city. So let's see what we can find if we go for some of these high density, low rent apartment complexes. Maybe something that's not super tall, something that doesn't stand out a ton, but looks nice in this area, and it doesn't interrupt the skyline too much. Something like this height would be pretty good, although I would like something a little bit wider. Perhaps something like this might be nice. Let's see what we've got here. This is a little bit too tall, I think. I don't want any huge towers going on. Now this, I think I can work with this. So let's place these down. Now, I just don't want to lose them. I don't want to have to find them again, but I'm going to move those. I would like to get maybe an alleyway road coming through here, or perhaps a parking alleyway. Let's see if we can do that. So let's get maybe a one-way perpendicular parking alley and drag that through here. And then let's grab our low rent apartment complexes here and place them sort of right here. We'll just do 2 identical buildings. That's totally fine. And I've got to get it a little bit more lined up here. Do I want to place these at an angle? It might look cool at an angle. And now that I'm looking at it from a little bit farther away, they are pretty tall. But I think once I have this whole area filled out, they won't stand out quite as much. I think it'll actually look pretty nice in the grand scheme of things. I just need to get a couple more buildings around them. So let's go with that. And then what I like to do with these apartment complexes is I like to have some pavement paths going around them. I don't want to add crosswalks to the street here, so I'm just going to grab it sort of at a little bit of a distance, just so that the pavement actually connects to the sidewalk, but it doesn't create a crosswalk. And we'll just get one going right through the middle here into this parking lot. So now they have plenty of parking, hopefully. Depends on how many residents are in here. Looks like 64 households, 108 residents, and that should go up over time as well. And let's see if I can find any more buildings that fit the bill. We're already seeing a lot of use with this parking lot here. We've also got 2 other parking lots that are attached to this building right here. So we've got plenty of parking in this area. I'm hoping that this shouldn't need any more additional parking. I don't want to see a ton of people parking on the streets like right here and stuff. If there are people that park on the streets, that's totally fine. This is really close to downtown after all, but it would be nice if we could fill up this parking lot and that kind of services all of these people in these areas here. So we've got 80 residents in this building, 65 in this building, which that's going to grow as well. All of these are going to grow a little bit as more people move in. 100 in here and 100 in here. So in total in this block, we've got about 350 residents, give or take a few. I think this place right here would be a really nice spot for a park. And so I think I'm going to make a little bit of a custom park here just with some pavement paths and some benches and just a couple of trees and stuff. Now that we've got this nice park here in the center of our district, I'm going to go into a time lapse and just fill out the rest of this area here. There is still quite a lot that I would like to accomplish by the end of this video. I want to get this highway connection in here, and then I also would like to review our downtown to see where we can add some bike infrastructure. So I'm thinking some bike lanes maybe on this arterial here, or maybe on some of these smaller roads. Might be a little bit safer for the bikers. But I have seen a couple bikers already. They're pretty few and far between. It seems like, from what I've noticed, the more bike parking you have, the more bikers you will see. So with this being a North American city, I do want to have cars be the main mode of transport, but I think it would be nice to have some bike infrastructure here in the center of downtown so you can kind of bike around between this downtown area without too many issues. Without further ado, though, I am going to go ahead and get this area filled out, and I will be back after I'm done. And just like that, this little section of our city has been completed. There still are some refinements that I'd like to do, but this build has taken me a little bit longer than I thought it would, and we're starting to run out of time a little bit on this episode. So like I planned, I have some commercial and some warehouse industrial areas here next to the highway. I've got those high density apartments that I placed down, which I think are really looking nice, honestly. They've got a little bit of a standout piece section of that area. I did end up just surrounding this whole area with residential buildings. I did want this build to be more suburban, and I was afraid that if I drug the city out a little bit too far, it wasn't going to be as suburban as I wanted it to be. So I filled out most of this area with houses, and we've still got this little commercial area here in the center with just, a gas station and a couple strip malls and stuff like that. So we've still got some commercial things even stretching out into this suburban area here. But for the most part, we've just got a bunch of houses here, and it's looking really, really nice whenever you put it into the full context of the city, I think. Whenever you zoom out and you're able to see just how sprawling things can get on either side of the city, it's really starting to look really full and seated into the terrain. We've got Copperdale over here, and we've got our downtown, and then we've got our new neighborhood, which is also going to need a name. So if anybody has any suggestions, I would love to hear it. And we've got that big highway stretching out through the city, which I think is looking really nice. I really like how I mixed between having a lowered highway here going through the map and then having that elevated highway going here. I think having an elevated highway just cutting right through the city adds a lot of character, in my opinion. And so I'm really enjoying that. And now that it's interacting with the other side of the city, it's not just this like wall where the city stops right as the highway stops. We've got city on either sides of the highway now, and I think it's looking really, really nice. So what I want to do now is take a look at our bike infrastructure. So looking at some of these streets, I see a couple streets here, which let me get out of photo mode. And it's gonna mess up my time of day, but that's all right. So I'm thinking this street here, Deerhurst Street, would be a good candidate for biking. Broad Street might also be a good candidate for biking because we've got this large plaza here and we've got lots of businesses and stuff, as well as the high school here on the end of Broad Street, and it kind of goes through Deerhurst and Chester Street. So I'm thinking some bike infrastructure over here would be nice. And then also probably Cypresswood Street. This is the center of downtown right here, and Cypresswood goes straight through the center. And so I think some bike lanes here on Cypresswood would do nicely to get people in and out of this downtown core here if they're going to work at their office job or if they're going to any of these businesses here in the center. I think that would be good. So let's take a look at what we've got. And so what it looks like to me is that whenever you do the double bicycle lanes, it widens the street ever so slightly, which is going to mess with the textures that we've already placed down. It's kind of one of the unfortunate side effects of doing detailing like this, is that it's really hard to change things going along. So I think I'm actually going to go with just the single bicycle lane, and I'm going to place it, let's see. So if I go here, it's going to go this way. Maybe I could do like a loop. So I could have a bicycle lane going through here all the way through this road, and it's going to be on this right side of the road here. And I'm just going to keep drawing that out. We've got a lot of intersections here, so we got to do this multiple times. And then we've even got this little thing here, which I wonder how that's going to interact. So it kind of cuts into the sidewalk here a little bit, but that's okay. I don't mind that. We're just going to keep going through here, and then I think we're going to make a turn here. So I want to make this bicycle lane here, and it's actually going to show up green here because I didn't put a texture on this road, which is kind of nice. I do like the green lane. I think it's not necessary to have the green lane everywhere, in my opinion, especially since we have the lines and we have the road markings here that show that this is a bike lane. Not every bike lane has to be colored green, although it is pretty good for safety reasons. And then we're going to move along all the way until we get to this park here. And we're going to move it. Oh, on the right side. There we go. We're just going to keep moving it along here and make sort of a little bicycle loop that people can ride on. And where did I start it? So I started it right here at the highway. I think I'm going to go past the highway. So let's see. This lane cuts off here. So we're probably going to need to turn here and then move along this road here. And I want to connect up. So I think I can do that just like this. So I'm going to continue moving along with the bike lane and get it all the way through this section of the city. This is going to be really nice for anybody that wants to commute from the suburbs into the downtown to go to their job or go to a business or something. So I think this is going to work nicely. And then the most important thing once we get this bike loop going is that we're going to want to add some infrastructure for parking. So we've got a bike loop going, and I'm not sure how much dedicated bike lane I really want to have in this city, mainly because it's a North American city and they do bike on the regular lanes. I'm not going to restrict anybody from biking, but I do think it would be nice to have some dedicated bike lanes in areas where I think people are going to be biking a lot. But let's take a look here at our biking parking, and we're probably going to want to center parking around this area, especially where the bike lane actually is. We can add these bicycle shelters that will basically just pop up on the street, which I think would be really convenient because then we don't have to actually place an individual building, which we can do that. I'm sure we can make space in some of these areas. I did leave some open spaces here and there that we can slot something in, but I think something like the street parking would be really nice. So let's see. I want to make some bicycle shelters here by the park. So if anybody is biking to the park, they will have some slots to go into. And let's just get a couple other of these sort of non-sheltered, but they just still have the bike ring. So we can place two here next to the city office here, and then get maybe a couple more really close to the downtown here. So maybe on this street, And then we'll do another one of these. And then let's consider adding some, maybe in the suburbs, especially maybe over here where these commercial buildings are. So let's grab that and do just some more covered bicycle parking here. And we'll add one there. Now, this doesn't have a actual bicycle lane attached to it, but that's okay. And maybe one over here next to these apartment complexes and the warehouses and stuff. Let's add one right here. So let's take a look at how much I've added. So I added a lot in downtown, and I have a couple of bicycle stands here in the suburbs. And then really, I think that's all I want to add for now. I really want to be careful on how many bike parking I add, because I don't want this to turn into a primarily biking city, which can be pretty easy to achieve as you add more parking down the line. So far, I'm really loving the vibes of downtown right now, with some cyclists going through, and then we've got some cars and lots of pedestrians walking around here in the center of downtown. It's looking really, really nice. And I'm really glad that we're getting to the population now where you're regularly seeing a lot of pedestrians and a lot of traffic and stuff through the downtown area. The car traffic is still pretty sparse just between downtown, but it's not empty. And that's what it really counts, you know, because I wouldn't want to have like traffic jams and stuff going all over the place. But there is just a reasonable amount of traffic that makes the place feel alive. And I'm really enjoying that. Let's see over here, just check out the traffic over here. Yeah, it's pretty sparse. I mean, it's mostly just single family, you know, suburban homes. So there's not going to be a ton of traffic going in and out of here, except for maybe at like rush hour. But I don't think it's going to back up here. I think if anywhere, it's going to back up, you know, here on these bridges as people, you know, commute in and out of the city. But that's about all we have time for this episode. Like I said, I still do want to go through and do a little bit more detail in this. So I'm either going to do that in between episodes, and then I'll just show you all in the beginning of the next episode what I've done. Or maybe I'll do a little bit of a short time lapse in the beginning of the next episode of continuing the detailing for this neighborhood. But I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you like the video, I would appreciate a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. And I will see you all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.